Hi, I'm Ali and I'm very happy to be next to Eric Lombrozo, CEO and co-founder of Cypherx. He's also one, for me at least, a developer, a core developer of the Bitcoin protocol.
Okay, thanks, Ali.
Thanks for being here. So I have some questions mainly regarding the Segwit2x. Please can you tell me what's your opinion about the Segwit2x and do you think is it going to happen in November?
Well, I mean, there's really no control that anyone has over whether people want to create forks of the Bitcoin codebase or chain forks. I think that this is something that, a couple of years ago, a lot of people were really worried about this kind of a thing, which was one of the main reasons for opposition for this kind of a hard fork, more so than the block size increase itself. But I think that now it's kind of like a lot of people have just come to accept that this is just part of the dynamic. But there's a couple narratives out there that I think are a little bit troubling. One is the idea that hash-power majority inherently can determine rules. That's the case for soft forks, as long as they're consensual soft forks where the whole network agrees. But for hard forks, that does not apply at all, because nodes are in the end the enforcers of the rules, and if the miners do not mine blocks that are valid according to nodes, then it doesn't matter what rules they use; they're just not going to be accepted. So the question is whether people can actually get other people to change their software, and then you get into issues of whether people willingly want to change their software or whether it needs to be coerced. And I think the general case is just a chain split, because you're never going to be able to get everyone to agree unless it's a chain that's just absolutely great for everyone and there's no downside for anyone, and that's really hard, especially when you're dealing with economic changes. I never personally took a side on what the block size should be. I think 1 megabyte is too small given the technology that's going to be technological growth. But the problem is that Satoshi put this 1 megabyte block size limit in as a soft fork back in 2010, I believe, but never told us how to actually get rid of it without creating a chain split. And actually wrote some blog posts where specifically it was said that it would break compatibility and it would fragment the network. So as far as whether I personally don't think that it's great for cohesion of the ecosystem. I understand that there's a lot of speculators that might be seeing some potential gains in this, but it does externalize a lot of costs. There's a lot of socialized costs onto the ecosystem. It definitely makes it harder to onboard new users and teach them what Bitcoin is, because then you have all these different forks that are happening. It's like, which one's the real Bitcoin, right? And I think that miners, it's been pretty well demonstrated by now that miners tend to follow the markets. Basically, users get to pick what blocks they want to accept and pay miners for that. So if the market pays more for a particular kind of block that follows certain rules, miners are incentivized to try to mine that unless they have some other longer-term strategic goal.
And for people that are not really following the news about the Bitcoin and all those forks, they will see themselves having those two coins, Segwit2x and Segwit, or the actual Bitcoin. So how would they deal? Which one of them should they use?
Well, for speculators, I think that it's just a game, and I mean, unfortunately, I think that without replay protection and a different address format, there are probably going to be losses because people are just going to send to the wrong chain. I would like to see replay protection. It's much easier to implement replay protection in a hard fork than to redeploy the entire Bitcoin ecosystem. And because basically to do replay protection, there's no way to guarantee replay protection on the base chain, because it's always possible to write a hard fork that violates that. So it's really whether the hard fork wants to play nice and actually add replay protection. I'm concerned that it's going to require, a bit of, it's going to create a bit of a confusion on the network, and users are going to need special tools to be able to split their coins and stuff like that, and also without a different address format, it's very easy for people to make a mistake when they're at an exchange. They click the wrong coin type and they send to the wrong address, right? So if we could get that stuff at least taken care of, so it's a clean break, it's a clean hard fork. I think that the collateral damage can be minimized. I still think that from a payment industry perspective, it's probably not the wisest choice, because we're talking about getting a very, very small increase in throughput at the expense of fragmenting the network and creating a lot of brand confusion and a lot of usability issues around that, potentially splitting, a lot of causing more bad blood and stuff like that. I don't think it's a smart move. I hope that people come to their senses and realize that probably it's better to not do that and to actually work on doing something for the longer term. I think there's some really good proposals that for how we might be able to actually do something longer term that is not just like a 2x block size bump, because once the block fills up, what are we going to do? Like we're going to do a hard fork every single time that the blocks fill up. It just doesn't make sense, right?
And from a technological point of view, today with Segwit we can go up to 4 megabytes. So why do we need today this fork of the Segwit2x?
Yeah, I mean, right. I'd love to see how Segwit plays out. I mean, I think right now it just activated. It's good to see a lot more people starting to use it. Give it more time to see what happens, and give more time for second layer solutions like the Lightning Network to evolve and see really where we stand. And I mean, I'm not saying that we should never do a hard fork ever. I think that definitely it would be nice to see some kind of either dynamic block size or at least like a steady growth of the block size eventually. What I would not like to see is like set this precedent where every single time that blocks fill up, we're going to do another hard fork. That's just not sustainable. That's not going to work.
So for the people watching us today, what are your recommendations how to better prepare for the potential hard fork that might be happening in November 2017?
Well, I mean, educate yourself. See, I think that there's some good resources out there. I think Jameson Lopp in particular has a really good website that has a lot of good resources that he links to. I recommend checking that out. I recommend running your own node if you really want to have full control over your coins, or if you're using a custodial, or a hosted wallet, to make sure that their policies actually agree with what you want. Don't expect them to represent your interests. I think that this is another problem. I think some businesses are saying, well, we represent our users' interests. Well, no, I mean, I think companies represent their shareholder interests, and I think users need to stand up for that. If you're using these services and they're not abiding by the policy that you want, make it known. Vote with your feet. Like either find another service provider or go and complain and tell them that you want them to do something. That's something a certain way.
Sure. And for people that want to follow you, how they can follow you?
You can find me on Twitter at Eric_Lombrozo.
Subscribe this in the comment below.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and my company's at Cypherx.com, and then the Bitcoin Core project is at bitcoincore.org.
Okay. Well, Eric, thanks a lot for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Bye bye.